Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to episode 15 of the Huddersfield Town Social. My name is Greg Marah. My sidekick, as per usual, is Cameron Pope. Also joining me is Sean O'Toole and Gareth Kaye. But I would just like to take a moment right here to ask for your thoughts and prayers for our good friend Ian Kilroy. He's not missed a podcast just yet, who is in hospital at the minute. Like Virgil van Dijk, he's got an injury. So we're going to don our, like Liverpool Football Club, don our needless Pray for Ian t-shirts. So please join us with the hashtag Pray for Killer on Twitter. We will take the piss out of him for his inevitable injuries for trying to play football. He will be very pissed off for me for doing that. Anyway, it's been a weird week. Inevitable defeat with a shoestring squad midweek, but we're going to focus on the Luton game, which gave us a bit of everything. It was dull at times, it was exciting at times. Town sometimes looks a bit poor at the back. George Moncur's goal for Luton proving that, but also looked quite good going forward. Josh Koroma, again, the bright spark, but it was Carol Lighting who scored in the second half to give Town a well-deserved point yesterday. Cameron Pope, you were at the game, you saw everything live, you heard the swearing, the effing, the jeffing, and you got to see Carlos Corberán in the flesh. What was the game like for you?
Well, Greg, it was an interesting one. I mean, I've commentated on 2 Town versus Luton games in the last 4 months or so, and that was markedly the better of the 2, but still not a great game. Which one is an indictment on how poor we were finishing last season. 2 shows that okay, we are moving in the right direction. However, Luton seemed to be turning into a bit of a bogey team for us. It wasn't quite as uninspiring as that 2-0 defeat back in July. But as everyone saw, they sat deep and were hard to break down. So it was an interesting one to be in the stadium for. It's the first one I've been to since the Norwich game to open the season. So, okay, not the greatest track record. But no, again, it was enjoyable to watch in the flesh some of the football we're playing. I thoroughly enjoyed parts of that match. It wasn't a dour affair by any means, and it was one of the more exciting 1-1 draws I've seen. Also, I was at the right at the front in the press box. I was within earshot of plenty of the well-known Town directors, some of which we've discussed on this podcast, and some quite colourful language. It's good to see on the one hand that they've got the passion that you want from those running the club. I also feel for the poor referee Oliver Langford, who I thought got a bit of an earful from the CEO and from others in his vicinity. But okay, look, shows that they care. I think Town made life difficult for themselves at times. Luton, okay, they look comfortable and they've certainly got the ingredients to be a team are very safe this year. They're a different side than Nathan Jones, but you know we made a rub for our own backs at times, and the goal was a prime example of that. Richard Stearman, for me, I'm a big fan of him. I don't think he put many feet wrong in that whole game, apart from for the goal, which he dropped a bit of a clanger for, left his man in the box, and then Adama Diakabi was in a different postcode to his, so I don't know what was going on there, and they made us pay. But look, that gave us the kick up the backside that we needed. We started to create a few chances after that goal. 20 minutes in, wasn't it? And we needed a bit of a wake-up. But I thought the link-up play between Josh Koroma and Harry Toffolo was as good as ever. On a different day, O'Brien hits the target when he works it in off the right flank. And yes, okay, the goal was a great move. I mean, you could say free header for Carol Lighting, and if you're looking at that from a Luton perspective, you're going to be quite pissed off. But he has a lot to do from when that ball gets lofted in, and it all came about from some great work between Toffolo and Koroma. So, okay, I think on balance, it's one of them on paper you can think, maybe we should have won this. And you know what? We had chances late on, and in another game with more of the rub of the green, we do take 3 points from that. But the biggest positive I'll take from that was the response to the goal, the way that we grew into the game after that. And I think we finished it as the better side. But there's one thing that is weighing heavily on my mind from that game. Just one thing, one image, that indelible I can't shake, right? What the fuck was going on with the Adama Diakabi socks? What is that?
I wasn't even that cold yesterday, was it? It was about 8 degrees.
It was nippy, but fucking hell, the speed he runs up down the wing, he should be exuding sweat like no one's business. I didn't even notice it in real time, and then saw the picture on Twitter as it came out of the ground. And fuck me, seen some like fashion faux pas in the football world, but that's just shocking. There's no excuse for that. I mean, the fact, to be honest, it's probably diverted the attention of how poor his performance was. So do you know what? It's probably that wonderful agent he's got, giving us some tips to try and deflect the attention. So I mean, for him, probably a good move.
I need to wear some long johns to Zara Dharma.
You can understand why you were cold anyway. That's why he had him like that.
He doesn't do too much, does he, poor Adam? Yeah, he didn't have a cracking game yesterday. I mean, always every morning before we do these, refresh with the highlights and bar a couple of deflected shots. He was pretty naff. Yeah, again, that goes down to the lack of strength and depth in our squad. But I was properly impressed with the way Luton set up. Again, it's the one thing that Town can't do at the minute. Well, even last season they couldn't do it, is break teams down, defend narrow and defend deep. I'm not sure, it's in those moments you need a little bit of magic to kind of get out of that. But teams have seemed to, I don't want to say been found out, because I don't think we have been found out, because we don't really know what players are going to do half the time anyway. But have we been found out already with Cobran? Just sit deep. Rotherham did it to us and it took a deflected goal. Luton have done it to us, and it took a moment of magic from, well, it was another beautiful goal. Town don't do dirty, scrappy goals anymore. They just do sexy, liquid football. But have we been found out a little bit?
I think it's just formation, Greg, to be honest. I think it is. I mean, I'm not good at maths. I hate numbers, but I think that it's down to formation, because it has been a frustrating couple of games. Sorry, it's only been 1 week. Because Bristol City, I know we're not going back there, but to arc back to Bristol City in terms of what I'm trying to say, they played a similar formation to us as well. And you get them games where you kind of cancel each other out. You either go down to a shit level and you're both as bad as each other, or, you're both playing a high intensity game, but you're not quite you're not quite turning the screw as much as you want to do. Now, what I saw yesterday, which I think Cameron had a better experience than me with the bright lights of being inside the stadium, but I was sat at home. I had Mr. Bean omnibus on. But I ended up taking one headphone out. I was getting bored. I thought it was a crap game, to be honest. But we started with a 4-3-3. They started with a 4-3-3. No, they did a 4-2-3-1, I think. So in the middle of the park, it was a massive clusterfuck, really. It was so tight in there. Nobody could move. There were no breathing space. And what have we done so far that's been brilliant? Using the width of the park. Wherever we've played so far, whenever we've got the rub of the green, we've been using Pippa and Toffolo to our advantage. Now, what I was seeing yesterday is obviously we wasn't playing that formation, and Toffolo and Pippa was kind of very much sort of enclosed to their defensive duties, so to speak. And whenever Hogg did sort of pirouette outwards, there wasn't the width there, so we wasn't getting in behind them. Everything was in front of Luton. And to be fair, they weren't too savvy, because everything that they did was in front of us. So it ended up being quite a poor game in that respect, because I thought that the managers would have kind of switched it up a bit earlier. And if you look then in the second half, 50 minutes, sort of 55-minute mark, we switched to a 3-5-2. And then all of a sudden you're seeing Pippa getting forward. You're seeing Toffolo, the king of the cutback. He's up there. And then we get a goal. I felt like we overcomplicated it and we could have switched it up a bit earlier.
Yeah, the game for me was everything I've come to expect of a game against Luton. I think it's the third one we've played since they came back up, and it was a scrappy affair. I think that suits Luton's and certainly Nathan Jones's way of playing. We started okay. We huffed and puffed. Luton probably had the best chance actually before the goal, where the lad came inside and had a dig with his left foot. But I mean, the goal was horrendous, and I think Cam says we don't score easy goals, and what seems to be a bit of a habit is we do give easy goals away. So we have to work really hard to score a goal, but we don't seem to make the opposition have to do the same level of work, which is disappointing. As you said, Stearman lost his man, probably the only thing he did wrong all day. I mean, dear cat, what on earth was he doing for that? That lad. But that summed up his game yesterday. I thought he looked disinterested. I mean, even when he was substituted, he looked like a man with the weight of the world on his shoulders. But that probably tells you how thin and skinny our squad is, that we're having to rely on dropping Adama Diakhaby in to make up an 11. We struggled with any rhythm. You know, Luton did what they do, like Millwall, but we didn't cope with it quite as well. I don't think they left the foot in quite a lot. I think the ref gave them quite a bit of latitude, and they took it. But once we did get going, I thought we played okay. But we had several breaks in the second half. We seemed determined to slow it down. Campbell got one where he was played in behind the back four, and instead of running towards goal, came back inside onto his right foot, which was just bizarre. And really, until the goal, Pippa was anonymous. But I guess that shows quality when somebody is as quiet as he is for 60 minutes. One moment of magic, he came into the centre of the pitch and created a chance for Toff to cut it back, and a great header by Eiting for the equaliser. You know, that probably shows the lad's level, that, you know, he is real quality. You can keep him quiet for 60 minutes and he only needs one chance. And before you know it, you scored a goal. So, and we went to 3 at the back then, and we looked better. But I just think it summed up the shortage of quality we have, really. I think physical numbers and quality were all for, you know, the lack of were there for all to see yesterday. You know, it was nice to see Danny Ward coming on and getting a bit of a cameo, but he did nothing. He created nothing, really. He ran about a bit, but he didn't get into the game at all. And I think a special mention for me, for somebody that we've been giving a bit of stick to recently, Jonathan Hogg. I thought he had a really good game, actually. And I guess that scrappy battling kind of a match suits his style. But actually, I thought he got the ball and tried to be positive with it. You know, I thought Eiting was invisible at times, despite the goal. And Hogg took it on himself. He took responsibility and really led the line yesterday. So I'm with you, Cam. I think you take a point and you move on. I think that's a game we could have won. I also think it's a game we could have lost. So, you know, overall, I was happy with the point. But, I mean, it's not one I'll be watching back again, that's for sure.
No, I'm not. I still don't know how they got a 10-minute highlight package out of that. Extended highlights as well.
Any thoughts on Danny Ward's tash?
Not for me, lads, not for me. I mean, it was probably one of the more remarkable things about his performance and his appearance at the end. I think cameo is the proper word to pick it up. He did his best. What was his name? George Weah's nephew impression, you know, just running after the ball for about 10 minutes. I thought, so I'm being unduly harsh. He's come back from a long injury layoff and everything. He's probably struggled for fitness for quite a while. So, look, it's a good sign to see him get back before the international break and everything like that. And I think it comes at the right time for him. So I say it in jest. But no, the tash has got to go. Like, he won't be welcome
It's
back.
November.
I hope it is.
I bloody well hope so.
Fair point, actually.
Well, yeah, yesterday was remarkable from Danny Ward's hopefully November tash to Dharma Diakabi's. I don't know, that lad's a bit special, isn't he? One contentious point, and get back serious again. Nathan Jones claimed that Josh Koroma should have been sent off. I don't understand where he's coming from with this. Bollocks, isn't it?
Was that lunge when it was like up the final third and he just kind of fell away a little bit and he sort of did a lunge? It wasn't that bad at all, to be fair. I don't think that was a sending off. I think it was more frustration from Josh Koroma, like yesterday as well. I think obviously in the formation that we played and how the game were panning out, like, agree with Gareth how scrappy it started to get in sections, that he was finding himself, because it was the left of that three, he was out there all the time. The ball was sticking to his foot. He was doing well, but he was kind of isolated. Do you know what I mean? And I think in that particular incident, he just lost control. It got away from him a little bit, and he sort of lunged. I think it was it one set of studs showing? I can't remember, but I think it one set of studs showing, and there were no malicious intent in that.
The ref was right on top of it when it happened anyway. In fairness to the ref, who sounds like he got some stick in the ground. I actually thought he had a good game, the referee. You know, he did lunge, but if you watch the replay, although all his studs are showing and it looks high, when he gets to the ball, he actually drops his foot to the ground. So, I mean, God, if that's what he's clinging on to, then I guess I don't know what he's trying to deflect from, because that's the sort of thing a manager comes out with when he's deflecting from something. Bit odd. I was disappointed with Koroma. I thought he was up against a pretty industrial right back, who I think he's a centre half normally, that lad. You know, he came from Halifax. Matt Glennon mentioned 700 times on the commentary. He used to play with him at Halifax, in and amongst us, you know what I mean. So, you know, I was disappointed. He made it really easy for the lad. The lad showed him back inside every time, and he just came back inside every time. There was only twice he went down the outside of him, and both times he put in a decent cross. And he's got to learn to mix his game up a bit, I guess. He's got to realise when he's getting no joy one way, he's got to try another. And I think was it Killer last week wanted to call him Karoma Grant or whatever it was. I don't know whether he's trying to replicate that, but he's got to have more to his game than just coming back onto his right and trying to smash it into the top corner.
I actually was very impressed with the way he came down that flank. And yeah, you make a good point actually, guys, because he was coming up against, I think it was Matty Pearson, wasn't it, who does normally play at centre half. They've got a bit of a crisis at fullback. And I think, okay, yeah, it's a bit of a one-trick pony kind of situation. He likes to work it to byline, cut it back, but he did it excellently at times because Pearson was being really physical with him. On the subject of the perceived red card, I think that's a load of bollocks. I mean, yeah, it wasn't a great tackle by any means, but when you've got, it was a kind of game, 4 yellow cards in the first half. I nearly used up my yellow highlighter, just marking all the cautions on my team sheet. It was one of them. So I think everyone's reaction to the comment tells you all you need to know. As soon as everyone heard that Jones was complaining about this red card that should have happened, I think everyone has to think back to the actual incident and think, what? No, it was never on anyone's mind. And if there's a red card that's been missed and a clanger that's been dropped, it's at the forefront of everyone's mind coming out of the game. Everyone knows about it. It's there. So no, I don't think anyone really gave it a second thought. So I don't think he's got much of a case for that. But I was impressed with Karoma, especially with his, as we said, his build-up play with Ali Toffolo. I think they clicked more than Ian Kilroy's knees on that left flank. They were getting to byline and working it back, and he was unlucky as well on the edge of the area. I think he got the ball from People, wasn't it, about 25 yards out. He wasn't far away. He flicked it around the defender really well, drew the centre back in and whipped it around with the right foot. It's only about a yard or so wide. And do you know what? Like, there was a time when used to be, to our great consternation, Town never used to take shots from outside the area, and we've got someone who can hit them now. And so, it takes a bit of arrogance and a bit of confidence to be like, right, I'm going to go this myself. But as a young lad, I'm quite pleased to see that. People say there's naivety to his game sometimes. And I think, Carol Eiting was absolutely begging for the ball at 1-0, wasn't he, going through? And he probably should have given it him. But, that's going to happen. I'm quite pleased that he's taking matters into his own hands and has the confidence to run at defenders and work it to byline. So for me, really pleased with him. Long may it continue.
Well, there you go. 1-1 draw. Both Luton and Town solid in mid-table. We're 13th going into the international break. Could have been a bit of a different story. We'll nip back quickly into midweek. And it's that point about squad depth that with the Bristol City defeat. We said, was it seven games in 21, 22 days? It was always going to catch up with us. And it definitely caught up with us on Tuesday night. 60 minutes, we looked very comfortable, better team. And then the strength and depth in like Bristol bench. We've got quite a few ex-Town players, one of them in Jamie Patterson scoring the winner. It's not like Carlos didn't try a couple of tricks, but my worry now with Huddersfield Town is we've got the coach or head coach, manager, whatever you want to call Carlos, somebody who's got a little bit of magic dust who can get a lot out of what he's got. Realistically, this lad's not going to be here past 2022 unless he's going to get properly backed. And when you look at that Bristol City team, compare it to Town, we're not calling for millions of pounds, but what Carlos has done with his squad, you just think what he could do with a little bit more backing, and that game just proved it. We could have taken them 3 points, but we just didn't have the depth.
No, I think that you're right, and I saw it in parts yesterday, but I saw it more so the Bristol City game. How tired we looked, physically. I mean, the game that we're wanting to play, you do need that squad depth. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to understand that. It could be just a case of, and I would say it in jesting wide, but someone a bit more of a journeyman that can come on and sort of give Hogg a rest. Do you know what I mean? A striker and a winger. Quite simply, it could make a big difference. It is sort of thin on the ground, and you can see. And I don't know whether he's trying to mix it up with who he's playing or who he's resting, and that might be why Diakabi's coming into the fold and people like that, because he's trying to rest others. I'm not sure, but January couldn't come quick enough really for that kind of thing.
Yeah, I thought Bristol City did a real good job on us, actually. You know, I think Dean Holden's had a bit of a terrible run. I think they won something like the first 5 or something, didn't they? And then they lost the next 4, or it might have been the other way around. But, you know, I thought they looked really comfortable. Even at 1-0 down, they seemed to be playing like a team that were 1-0 up. They didn't seem to panic. There wasn't a lot of urgency in their play. But when he made the changes were impactful. And they brought on the lad up front who causes all sorts of problems for the last sort of 20, 25 minutes. You know, you bring on somebody of Jamie Patterson's quality. You know, that was but again, we were self-inflicted. The goal bounced around in the box, 4 or 5 opportunities to get it clear. We don't deal with it, and it smashed into the back of the net. So, you know, is that poor defending? Is it tiredness? Possibly. You know, tired minds, tired bodies. But we're definitely short. I know he's beginning, as Greg's favourite phrase, sounds like a broken record. And it does sound like a broken record. But we've 11 more games now between now and January the 1st. So we've played 11. So that gives you an idea of how long we've still got to go before the bloke's going to be able to bring in reinforcements, assuming A, wants to, and then B, the club will back him to do so. So, you know, still a long way to go yet before we start bringing some more bodies in. So, you know, we've got to pray we don't get many more injuries, because I think if we do, we've got real problems. You know, we're nicely sat in mid-table. We all thought the Cowleys were doing a fantastic job getting what they were getting out of the squad. This bloke seems to be getting as good, plus, for me. And I'm with you. I think if we don't back him, chances are, you know, a top-end championship club, a Stoke or a Middlesbrough or somebody will pick this lad off and take him and invest in him.
Yeah, we're starting to see, aren't we, this season, that squad we had last year, and okay, the improvements on it. I still think that we're pretty much the same level in terms of squad, just with a few additions and a few departures. I think we're starting to see what they're capable of now. We're able to see that, okay, we were capable of more than scraping free of relegation. And so, okay, you might argue that if the Cowleys had a full season and we hadn't given everyone else a 9-game head start, it might be a similar eventuality. And it's textbook Town, really, isn't it? And for me in midweek, that just epitomised that. I didn't actually watch the game. I was commentating on Blackburn Middlesbrough. I mean, a shocking game, by the way. But being a 7:45 kickoff compared to Town 7 o'clock, I went in for half time. We were 1-0 up. I thought, oh, it was great. Went to get a cup of tea, came back to the studio, and bloody lost the game, hadn't we? So I mean, it certainly brought me back down to earth after the roller coaster that was the Millwall game. And I think it's just a feeling that every Town fan knows well, isn't it? We'll put a great performance in on the weekend. We'll start looking up the table rather than down, and then we have, you know, a crushing defeat to bring us to plant our feet solidly on terra firma. So I think with Town, it's always an eventuality, isn't it? But some wise words said, exactly, there still is a long old way to go until January. The international break now coming at the right time. To be honest, I thought we'd struggle more than we did in these 7 games in 22 days. We've got through it, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but without serious injury problems. I think it could have been a lot worse. We said, like Ian pointed out, God rest his soul, about the importance of Pieper and Toffolo, and we've actually managed to. Gas is making me off camera, making the sign of the cross, but we managed to work his way through it, and we haven't lost any men really at fullback. But okay, yeah, we need another slice of luck if we're going to get through 11 games unscathed now. So that's going to be the real test. Good to see Dehaney getting a fleeting appearance towards the end of the game and some game time. Well, yeah, that's going to be the real test now. So get some rested bodies in. It'll be good to have Bayeko brought into the squad. You hear that Kieran Phillips is good enough to be called on. He was going to be on the bench, wasn't he? If Danny Ward wasn't fit. I'm still not sure if that's the right answer to our problems, having to rely on an academy kid. But okay, it's what we've got until January. And if he's scoring 7 goals in 3 games with a B team, then I'm happy to have him near the first team. Until, let me reaffirm, in January, we do need to strengthen. So yeah, that's going to be a big window for us. I think we just need a bit of a rubber to green now to get us through to it unscathed.
I think it's also important to say that it's not disheartening when we lose. We don't need to get too disheartened unless we go on a bad run. And likewise with victories too, because this is what football's about, mid-table. This is the mid-table, mid to lower end table squad, really, if we're being very honest. You know, there are a lot of teams worse than us in this league. We're coming up against one after the international break and Wicker Wanderers, and if we can spank a team like that, they're probably, or give us a bit of confidence. We'll probably then lose the next game to Cardiff or something like that. It's just a case of town at the minute. But we're now going into another period. We said 7 in 22, 2 weeks off. Nobody's really going on international duty, and people might be with Spanish under 21s again, maybe, but that's about it. Where it's Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday, Tuesday again, and for a month. So I just can't wait for January. I really can't. I just if we can get into January 16th, 15th, about where we are now, I think we'll be in a great position. And we actually do have a bit of money to spend. It'll be up to the chairman, and that's going to be his call, isn't it? Has he got the balls to back Carlos or not? Because if he keeps the money close to his chest, using the COVID excuse, then Carlos could well be gone, and I don't think he will. I think Ian's always said that Phil always seems to be a smart individual when it comes to ruthless decisions. Phil's even said that himself on BBC Radio Leeds. He's got quite a few of them ruthless decisions right, bringing the Cowleys in, bringing Carlos in, etc. So let's be positive. When we're mid-table, we didn't expect this with this squad, did we, at the start of the season? I don't know how many here. I definitely backed us for relegation.
Oh yeah, it needs to. We as a club need to do something in January though, because it's just like I say, it's the trials and tribulations of being a town fan, isn't it? We just don't ever do things right. We're always like a hair's breadth away from success, and then just either bad management or wrong decisions just puts us back to that seat in the Vulcan with a pint, moaning to each other. And it's like, what could have been? Well, look at the manager we've got in front of us now. This guy is class. He is class. You can see it by what he's got out of our players. We sort of go back to the Wagner revolution, which was a revolution, but it was also a bit of a fluke as well. I think we'd all be honest with that, going up with a minus goal difference and all that lot. And, if we ever want to get up there again, it's going to have to take investment. That was like one historical sort of pillar in our history, the Wagner time. And if we ever want to get fighting up there, we need a stronger squad than what we've got now.
You're right, Sean, but we don't need to go nuts. I think I said this last week. You look at what we've paid for Pieper, 500 grand. What we've paid for Toffolo, 500 grand. We picked up Naby Sarr on a free. I know he'll be on decent championship wages, but he's a free transfer. These players are out there. I don't think that the club just need to get it in there. I think the club think we're all expecting them to sign marquee signings and spend 1, 2, 3, 5, 10 million pounds. That's not what any of us are asking for, because clearly this bloke can get a tune out of somebody as long as they've got the right basics, and that's what the club have got to concentrate on. And in fairness, that seems to be the majority of the stuff. The people they've brought in the close season seem to be made of the right stuff, and that gives Carlos half a chance to shape them into something. And that's what I'm looking for. I was just looking at the 2 games before 1st of January are Barnsley and Blackburn. So worryingly, we might have 2 wins just before 1st of January, which will give Phil all the excuse he needs. We don't need any more players.
Yeah, you're right. We don't need it's not the marquee signings. We don't need David Nugent on a free either, do we? You're right. It's got to be the right makeup of a player. You sort of maybe look at sort of Eddie Howe at Bournemouth, for example, like what he did. I mean, I didn't know half of them players when they started to come up from League One, and he got a right group of players together, didn't he? So I think it is about that sort of adding to what we've got, but not bursting the bank either. And I think, yeah, you're right, Gareth, that's the vibe that I get from the club, is that we've got these stupidly high expectations for these marquee signings and, bringing all these big names. And it's not, be clever with your recruitment. Look at what you've got and look at what you need to add.
Oh, Wagner did it with Lerver, with Ethel, with Schindler. They were exactly what we needed. Leaders, bit of character about them, that kind of signings. And you got that. Pieper's got a bit of character about him. I think
they were good men, Greg. They were good men, Greg, and I think that's what Carlos wants. He wants good people. Football. Listen, you've got to be a footballer of a certain level to even get, even be considered for signing for a championship club, unless you're a Dharma Diakabi, of course. You've got to have a certain level of ability. But Wagner signed good men, and I think that I think is also part of what Carlos wants, because that's how Bielsa works. It's about characters, not necessarily about their athletic performance, and that, the club wouldn't go far wrong revisiting that. As you say, Heffler and Lerver, never going to be the world's greatest footballers, but you'd want them in your team every week, wouldn't you?
Definitely, and that's where it all went wrong in Premier League, where you sign people. I mean, even that first season, the players that were brought in, if you look at Lerzel and Zanka and that, they were good men as well. Zanka had a falling out with Sievert, as has become very evident in his comments kind of post-town, and everyone kind of turned on him wrongly. But that first season, again, it were good men that were brought in. That second season, with the exception, I'm going to say, of Mbenza, who seems to be reinvigorated and he seems to really want to prove himself. A lot of those players that came in just didn't really give a shit. And it's also getting lads in who want to prove themselves. And you think about it, bringing players up from League One, Harry Taffler, 100 starts consecutively. That's an amazing achievement. And he's wanting to prove himself in this league. And he's arguably already one of the best fullbacks in this league. Ian keeps saying we have the best fullbacks in the division. I mean, Pieper defensively is a bit dodgy for me, but it all comes down to recruitment with Town. It's been our biggest bugbear for a long time, and I think if we can get it right in the next few months, we'll be. I'd love a top half finish this season, and then next season progress on and just be challenging for playoffs. I mean, that's all you can ask for a Town fan. Our aim as a club is still the top 30 in the country. Top 30. So you want to be a top half championship club consecutively. That's all we need to do. Sounds so easy, doesn't it? It's not like we can all play a bloody Football Manager like that bloke in Australia is doing at the minute in his wheelchair. Sorry, Ian. We'll stop bullying you. Quick one to finish. We finally have some news on the sponsorship. Positive news. We're going to see a couple of charities on the shirt, which is always nice. Local business. Ian kind of suggested this last week, going down the Huddersfield Giants way of doing a raffle. It seems to be Town way, so it's great that that's going on. It's disappointing that we didn't get a proper sponsor and for a decent amount of money, but I suppose at this stage of the season it'll have to do, won't it, gents? But I'm more than happy to see local charities on the shirt, especially in these times, because I have a couple of mates who work in the charity sector. I used to work in the charity sector myself, and there's a lot of redundancies and there's a lot of struggling for funds. So any way that a football club can help is only positive.
Yeah, it was the right thing to do at this point. I mean, let's be honest, the whole shirt sponsor situation was a mess at the start of the season. There's no dressing that up. But that's done now, and there's no point cracking on about it. I think that, okay, this was the logical conclusion to come to, and I think it's the right one. And so great news for the charities, etc., who get onto the shirt. I think, it's a force for good. I think we've got an outlet and we're using it the right way, especially right now as well. So yeah, I think it's re-establishing that link with the community, which we've banged on about on this show. Myself, I've been a big advocate of bringing that back. So again, okay, just extending links out to Huddersfield and Kirklees, and I think, all right, okay, not the way we would have planned it at the start of the season, but time to move forward, and that's not a bad way of doing it. So fair play.
100% agree. We've given the club quite a bit of stick on this podcast. Some of it perhaps fair or unfair, you decide. But this is I'm with you, Cam. They need to be getting everybody they can engaged and showing support for local charities, especially ones as deserving as those that are being talked about. Is exactly what I want. And to be honest, it's what I've come to expect in the last 10 years from Huddersfield Town. It probably feels like the most Huddersfield Town thing they've done in quite a while. So well done to the club. Well done to Mr. Devlin and Phil.
Well, we'll go into predictions. I know we've got a bloody international break to go in, but I think we all need a good break from football, don't we, gents? Town play Stoke next. Stoke are just below the playoff places. They're 8th, 4 points ahead of us. Michael O'Neill's done an amazing job there. Really, really great job. Like he said, with the Cowleys last season. Town were 23rd, Stoke were 24th. Clubs in those positions had ever stayed up, and both clubs managed to stay up. I don't know if it says anything about the league last year, but it also says something about the achievements. And Michael O'Neill's done a great job. I mean, I'm looking at that game, and I'll take a draw. I'll take a point here right now, and really, they're a bit inconsistent. Last 5 games, win, lose, win, lose, win, lose. But I'll take a point every day of the week. I'm going to go 1-1.
I'm going to second that, Greg. I'm going to say that I'm still scarred from the afternoon I spent at the Bet365 Stadium when we were in the Premier League, and Moyes Hollywood baller sent them through for their second goal, and they beat us 2-0. It's a terrible day, and so I always and will forever associate Stoke with that. So it's difficult for me to predict a win, but no, I think Josh Caroma will get one for us, and I believe it'll be 1-1.
I'm going to go. Unfortunately, it's going to be a loss, guys. I want a draw. I'd take a draw, but I just can't see us beating Stoke. They're a better team than us. So Stoke 2-0.
Yeah, I think I'm with you, but I think Michael O'Neill's done an unbelievable job. You think we had a team full of players who didn't want to be there? That bloke had about 30 of them, the team, and then about 3 teams behind them. He's done an amazing job. I've got a couple of lads who work for me who are massive Stoke fans, and he's really starting to get them singing. They've got high hopes for this season. So I think I can't see anything other than a defeat in that. I think they'll probably have a bit too much quality for us going forward. So I'll say 2-0 Stoke.
Yeah, Stoke City will always be that same game, Cam, for me as well. Admittedly, though, Stoke fans were quite nice, and I won about 300 quid that day on the horses. But that got pissed away on that terrible performance, and I'm never ever going to Stoke again. But there you go, a bit of realism to finish. We know what we are now, don't we? Mid-table team, trying to succeed, whatever. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for this short podcast. It's nice not to be whinging for an hour and 15 minutes, and me having to edit it all down. So, aren't we all in a fantastic position? And may God rest Ian Kilroy's soul.
R.I.P. Killer. R.I.P. Killer.
Good luck, Ian. Plenty of veg.
Don't be eating any more biscuits, Ian, because your knees are made of them already.
Yes. The former professional footballer, or semi-professional footballer, Ian Kilroy. We think about you. Thank you very much, Cameron. Again, Sean, always a pleasure to hear your dulcet tones, and Gaz. Good to see your Tony Soprano poster in the background. We'll be back in a few weeks' time. Enjoy your break from football. I think we need one. And then we'll be back to paying 20 quid a week on bloody iFollow. All them Premier League fans whinging about 15 quid. Go swivel. We have to pay 10. What are you whinging about? Goodbye.